I, O God, attend unto my prayer. From the end of the earth will I cry unto thee when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, for thou hast been a shelter for me and a strong tower from the enemy. I will abide in thy tabernacle forever. I will trust in the covert of thy wings, Selah. For thou, O God, hast heard my vows. Thou hast given me the heritage of those that fear thy name. Thou wilt prolong the king's life, and his years as many generations. He shall abide before God forever. O prepare mercy and truth, which may preserve him. So will I sing praise unto thy name forever, that I may daily perform my vows. Psalms chapter 61. Deliver me from the hands of evil spirits who have sway over the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from thee, my God. Establish thou me and my seed, that we go not astray henceforth and forever. Jubilees chapter 12 and verse 20. Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We thank God for you, and you. And also we thank God for those of you who have subscribed, been with us since the beginning. And we thank God for those of you who have been with us here and there's about. And we thank the Most High for those of you that have been with us just subscribing. And we thank God for those of you who are about to subscribe, giving God the praises for those things, calling those things that are not as though they are. All praises to the Most High. Yes, we called about war on our last chapter that we've walked through. We talked about war. But now we have a different thing. Now God's plan for Solomon's reign is being carried out, to see what the children of Israel would do, basically. I mean, we talking about, if you look at the description of God's realm, where the Most High is, not only in the book of Enoch, Jasher, and Jubilees, but also in the prophets. Because really the book of Revelation and the whole New Testament is it's really a big menagerie, to tell you the truth. All we have to go on is really the Old Testament. Because you can't just take a few 30-something years, as they put it, and delete a whole thousands of years of God dealing with a people and giving examples and showing us all manner of things. It just don't add up like that. So the fact is, his laws, statutes, commandments, and ordinances is what it's all about. For that is how even the kingdom of spirits, the realm of spirits, is conducted. And you have men that have taken the Bible and have caused it to be manipulated in many minute ways in order for them to even convey what they think or how they want the people to act. And mostly this was done to the New Testament. But regardless, we still have a history here. We're in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 6. Yes, chapter 6, the book of 1 Kings, chapter 6. And the thing about it is that the son of David, even Solomon, the son of David, David collected a lot of things already. He had got a lot of gold, a lot of silver. Now, we look at the last chapter and how that Solomon began to have all kind of feast, and the people were really pressed. He pressed the people hard and feast and everything. And he doesn't talk about his appetites, his sensual appetites. Didn't talk much about that at that chapter right there, but we're going to get into it eventually. And it came to pass in chapter 6 and verse 1, and it came to pass in the 480th year after the children were come out of the land of Egypt. 480 years. This narrative tells us that the children of Israel come out of the land of Egypt in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel. Now everything had to be set up. He had to deal with his Adonijah. He had to deal with all these other folks that have tried to come against his reign. And now he, the son of a man, whose mother was really tragic. Her life was tragic. Very tragic. Her husband was killed on spite of a man wanting her beauty. Now this is not uncommon. This is uncommon, but it's not a common occurrence, but it's an occurrence that happens. You hear in all the different, most of us have been inducted into European history and how the men have had other men killed in order to have their wives or their daughters or whatever. Yes. And also I'm sure in different African lore and Egyptian, which is African, and if you say even Israel, which is African, in that we still have accounts of where men would unalive other men in order to obtain what they have. Covetousness, the English word is for it, desiring that of another's for ill will. Covetousness. And now we have here where it came to pass 400 years, that's a long time after they came out of Egypt. Now stories can get switched around and told all kind of ways to this point now. Now it says now in verse 2, in the house which King Solomon built for the the length thereof was 80 cubits. In other words, 60 cubits. And the breadth thereof 20 cubits. Now you can say a cubit is about a foot. A yard. We can say a yard. A cubit is about a yard, somewhere in there. And so if you do that, you can do the math and you'll find out that it's pretty big. Now, therefore, it seems small by the way they describe it. According to the breadth of the house. In other words, the breadth is the width. And then 10 cubits was the breadth or the width thereof before the house. And for the house was made windows and narrow lights. And against the wall of the house he built chambers round about, against the walls of the house round about, both of the temple and of the oracle, and he made chambers round about. And the nethermost chamber was 5 cubits broad, and the middle was 6 cubits broad, and the third was even 7 cubits broad. For without in the wall of the house he made narrow rest round about, and the beam should not be fastened in the wall of the house. And the house, when it was in building, was built of stone made ready before it was brought thither. In other words, they fashioned the stone. They got the stone, they fit the stone together before they was even brought up to the house. And they went up with the winding stairs unto the middle chamber, out of the middle into the third. So he built the house and finished it, and covered the house with beams and boards of cedar. You can imagine how good it smells. Cedar is a beautiful smelling wood. And when he built the chambers against all the house 5 cubits high, and they rested on the house with timber of cedar. And the word of the came unto Solomon, saying, concerning this house which thou art building, if thou wilt walk in my statutes. Now here's a condition. Oh, God is love. God is unconditional love. You liar! His love is always conditional. His way is conditional. You lied. Many of you go lying to each other and lying. The preacher lie. Everybody lie. Unconditional love. Even a mother have conditional love with her siblings. She might go to great stretches, but there's a point where she breaks. There's a point where she will break. Love is always on condition. Come on here. Now, let us get here. We're talking something else. And he built walls around the house with the boards of cedar. And he built 20 cubits on the sides of the house, both the floor and walls with boards of cedar. And he even built them for within, even for the oracle, even for the most holy place. And the house, that is the temple before it, was 40 cubits long. 3 times 40. You can say about 120 feet. It's quite a long one. Yes. And the cedar of the house within was carved with knops and open flowers, and all was cedar, and there was no stone seen. But the oracle he prepared in the house within to set there the Ark of the Covenant. In other words, he had a space that he set the Ark of the Covenant of the I Am. And if you go and you just put in your search engine on YouTube, you find out that it's called the Real Jerusalem. I don't know his website or anything like that, but if you type the Real Jerusalem, you will see even the picture behind me. But there's a man he's a Rastafarian guy, and he points out where the things were located inside this temple that he's about to show you if you would go to that website or go to that channel. And the oracle in the forepart was 20 cubits in length and 20 cubits in breadth and 20 cubits in the height thereof. And he overlaid it with pure gold. Now you have to realize that once that the Romans got there or the temple came down, all that gold was unlaid and taken. God allowed it. Because you so backwards, Jacob, God allowed it. You're so hell-bent on being like your oppressors and being like those of the heathen, God allowed that. Don't go hollering and crying like you so righteous, Jacob. You're not. Or Israelite. No, you're not. You've been turned backwards. Now you're trying to find your way. You got a little glimpse, but you're just trying to find it. You're trying. But yet you seem like 1 step forward and 3 steps back many times. Yes. He said in the oracle in the forepart was 20 cubits in length and 20 cubits in breadth and 20 cubits in the height thereof. And he overlaid it with pure gold and so covered the altar, which was of cedar. Beautiful, 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 which Solomon had made, but he already knew the heart of Solomon. But this is what God wanted before Solomon got to doing his dirt. So Solomon overlaid the house within with pure gold, and he made a partition by the chains of gold. Pure gold chains. You know, with the colonizers and all that stuff was not going to stay there long. Once they got up the power and God had raised them up to do what he wanted them to do, it wasn't going to stay there long. What God care about gold? He likes the color of it and everything, but God don't trade gold with nobody. I mean, it's just shiny. It's a beautiful color. It's a color that, you know, and just the consistency of it. Color, the shininess, the beauty of gold and silver. Yes, apparently God loves these things, but the fact is that that's not, the trade of it is not what God wanted. Yes, it's a rare metal. It's not so rare, but it's rare in order that it can have a value and be traded. Yes. And within the oracle in verse 23, he made 2 cherubims of olive tree, which each 10 cubits high. He made 2 cherubims of olive tree. Well, I don't get that, but either way, each 10 cubits high, 30 feet high. About 20 to 30 feet high. That's tall. And 5 cubits, or you can say 15 feet, 10 to 15 feet high, was the one wing of the cherub. How long was a cubit? This is what I've been given. I may be wrong of how a cubit is, but I think it's somewhere plus or minus 3 feet, maybe 2 feet, 3 feet, 2 feet, or 4, on whatever you want to call it. He said, now 5 cubits was the wing of one cherub, and 5 cubits was the other wing of the other cherub. From the outermost parts of one wing to the uttermost parts of the other were 10 cubits. These were some, apparently, from what I understand, these were some huge things here. Now, verse 25, and the other cherub was 10 cubits, that's 30 feet. From the cherubims were of one measure and one size, and the height of one cherub was 10 cubits, so was it of the other cherub. And he set the cherubims within the inner house, and they stretched forth their wings, the wings of the cherub, so that the wings of the one touched one wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall. Now you have to realize how big this thing was. Now they're in this room. Now these cherubs are pushed back, or they're sort of covering the Ark of the Covenant. And this wing is going, they're crossing each other, but they're touching the wall, the wall that's in front of the wing, or at the tip of the wing, is touching the wall. The wall is overlaid with gold. So something's wrong here, according to this narrative. These things were huge. These images were huge in the house of the Most High. Because above the Ark of the Covenant was the mercy seat. And anywhere you go, it's going to cover God's face. This is one thing I see that no man has ever saw God's face. And when they go into the temple, you cannot see God's face, for the wings of the cherubs cover his face when he sits upon the mercy seat. And then you have even the cherubs that is mentioned in the prophets that say they were as the wheel. They never turn left or they never turn right. Everywhere the wheel goes, these cherubs behold the wheel, the fronts of the wheel. They never turn. In other words, they continually behold God's face. How can we behold God's face? I want you to really get into this. Reading this. It's statutes. See, this is where all this other stuff they try to do to people is gone. See, God says if somebody smack you, you smack them back. If God says if somebody kills someone in your family, if they have done wrong, out of malice, he said if somebody kill somebody in your family or a friend or whatever, out of malice, not because they've done wrong, out of malice. You can be the seeker of blood to the point where God says, in my kingdom, you can kill them. Yes, I will. And if they were killed by mistake, now there has to be a judge there and witnesses. If they were killed by mistake, then they can flee to a city of refuge, because just like he gave the example, if the tree fell, you said, hey, timber, and this idiot gonna sit up there and he's gonna sit there with the tree. He knows it's gonna fall on him, and it falls on him, and you already given the alarm and everything, and you didn't do it out of malice, and people seen you, and he died. You got some families that are weird that way. In other words, everybody tell him he was in the wrong place. He sit there, we told him, we hollered. And as soon as he felled the tree fell on him and he died. You got some families just weird like that. God said, you're not going to kill him. Your crazy relative sit up there was told and warned what was going to happen. Or was in the wrong place when he was told to get up and move with everybody else. Because this is going to happen or that is going to happen. You got some weird families, I'm telling you. But either way. And he made the images of these cherubims out of what? They were made out of wood. But then what did he do? He overlaid the cherubs with gold. Yes, they take melted gold and they thin it out and they just pat it over and they can make it look smooth as though it was cast in a furnace. And he carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figures of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers within and without. See, what God was using was nature. He used the nature, the fir tree and the cedar trees, in order to give you a glimpse of what it is, of where he truly is, where he truly rules from. These big cherubims. Now we gotta realize something. They have the cherubims on top of the. Now it depends what version you got, because we got so many versions and so many translations of what men think. See, men, it's really a bad thing that you got so many translations and so many people that change it to meet what they want to convey to a people. As far as these Bibles, and most of us don't have the money to be pushing forth that stuff. But the fact is, his statutes, commandments, ordinances, and laws are the foremost things that we should always pay attention to. I ain't talking about what your Esau says. He's not God. That's not a God. That's a man. He was born by the seed of a man, or this guy whom they put forth as Jesus or whatever. He was put forth as a man because he was made by copulation between man and woman. Now you can go to your book of your, Book of Mary and you got other books that talk about that, but it's better to just leave that alone, because the Old Testament, what we call the Old Testament, has never changed. It's never changed. There is no Mashiach in that order that becomes a man and then he becomes God once he dies. No. You got a problem there. And therefore you've missed the contradiction of the Old Testament that it also portrays. It contradicts the whole Old Testament. The books they throw it out, that was by design. They throw them out so you wouldn't have nowhere to compare nothing to. And now, verse 31, and for the entering of the oracle he made doors of olive trees, and the lintel on the side posts were a fifth part of the wall. The two doors also of olive tree, and he carved upon them carvings of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold, and spread gold upon the cherubims and upon the palm trees. In other words, this is what's going on in the realm that God is in. Angels, spirits of the Most High, which are cherubim, spirits of the Most High that you don't even know about, that are surrounding God. You have those that were just before God, who have the four faces according to one of the prophets. Like they were the ones that always behold the face of the Most High. Holy. You cannot behold their face, neither can you look upon them, because they behold the face of the Most High. Even Moses shone with all the glory and all the anointing, and he only seen the backside of the Most High, that which he allowed him to see. For the entering of the oracle he made doors of olive trees, lintel, and side posts, and there was a fifth part of the wall, and the two doors were of olive trees, and he carved upon them carvings of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with. This is very genius. I mean, this is just carvings and moldings of, just very artistic value, but you had the devils come in and take it all and destroy it. Got it up in their museums. They traded it off for money and liquor and gold or whatever. God just allowed it to be just taken away. Because you, Jacob, you can't believe God. You so stuck on aliens, stuck on Anunnaki junk. You stuck on all kind of mess. You stuck on messing with the pastor's wife and the pastor's messing with your wife. You stuck on all this stuff. You're stuck on, should I say, sin, transgression against the law. Period. Transgression against the law, statutes, commandments, and ordinances of the Most High. Not just in action, but in our hearts. We're stuck on this thing. We can't get past our unbelief. I ain't talking about no Esau's belief. I'm talking about belief as far as the law is concerned, about who God is. About this entity that many cannot understand because they're still trying to figure him out. You will never figure God out. But you can know him and you can understand him. Nobody's trying to figure the drunkard out, but they try to know him and understand him that he might change. How do you understand the drunkard? Why? What makes him drunk? What makes him God? How do I know him? Because this is what he does. I know him. If you do this, God will do this according to his statutes, commandments, ordinances, and laws. Yes, he will. Now, and the two doors of fir trees and the two leaves of the one door and the two leaves of the other door folding, and he carved thereon cherubims and palm trees and open flowers and covered them with gold fitted upon the carved work. And he built the inner court with 3 rows hewed of stone and rows of cedar beams. And in the 4th year was the foundation of the house of the I Am laid in the months of Ziph. It even gives you the number of the different months. And in the 11th year, in the month of Bul, this is the 8th month, was the house finished throughout all their. How did these months start? The new moon. Out of darkness becomes light. The new moon. When there's nothing, when you start. So for you full moon people who are set backwards on things, you be turning. Now it says the man's days is 70 years old, but yet you turn 35, so you're a new person. You're in your fullness of life. You're at your mid-cycle. You're in your midlife days at 35. How foolish can you be? Yes, I did say it. That is so foolish. A baby is new. He comes out of the darkness of the room into the light of the world. The same thing as the moon. It disappears in the end of the month behind the sun or behind a planet, something to that effect. But anyway, when it comes out there at the end of the month, then he begins to glimmer and shows a slither of light. That is the new moon. In other words, the moon is born again. Oh, my. Although there's no such thing as no born again, that's just a figment of your imagination. You'll never be born again, but you can be renewed in your mind by doing those things that are contained in the law, statutes, ordinances, and commandments of the Most High. Yes, these are the things that we should cleave to. All that other stuff, because it gives us liberty. Many of you don't understand. You've been so Christianized, so controlled. In other words, you can't see for looking. In other words, it ain't what your Jesus says, it's what the law says. What does the law say about morality and your conduct toward your brother and your sister? What does the law say about your adoration of God and your obedience to him? What is the first and foremost commandment? Thou shalt have no other God before me. And like unto that. That is part of loving God. What is love? For the Israelite and for the children of Jacob, it is the law. It is the commandment statutes. The law which was written by the finger of God, this to foremost things of the law. That's really self-explanatory if you look at it. But God goes further and he sends an angel, according to the book of Jubilees, to explain to Moses, or a spirit from God explain to Moses about what the I Am desires of his children. See, what you get, you call your negatives, you Egyptian people. Oh, my negative, my negative. Go away. You stupid. You still wear dog's heads. The Mexican hairless dog. That dog is so old. That's one of the original breeds of dogs. It's not just a wolf. You've been bamboozled. You've been messed up. Here you is running around looking foolish with a dog's head on you. They have a hairless cat too. Which one you want? You want to look like a bird? Come on here. The idolatry. Now Israel. Now this is why Egypt does not exist. They knew much about God for the exchange they had when Israel was in the land, but they chose to pervert it. They chose their own ways, the way of paganism, the dark arts. Yes, they were taught. Now, people were taught before the flood. They were taught by what? The Watchers. The Watchers taught them. Even the Watchers taught them war. How to war. Yes, as we said yesterday, how to be active or vigorous in conflict. War. In other words, how to. This is what they say in the English. If I don't agree with you, I'm going to war. It's taught by the Watchers. You will war with me because you don't want to be overwhelmed by me. So we war until one wins. The same thing with sports. War, competition, war. Because one wants to rule and be dominant. One wants everyone to look at him as a god, a power, because he won the contest or the war. He was vigorous in conflict. Football game, a basketball game, even track and field, vigorous in conflict. But the fact is that 38, he says, in the 11th year in the month of Bul, which is the 8th month, was the house finished throughout all the parts thereof, and according to all the fashion of it, so was he 7 years in building it. God's timing is something else. He knows how long. He ain't gonna ask you how long it's gonna take. He knows how long he's gonna give it. He knows this. But in all of this, it's all about the government. He's just giving the man a glimpse of the government of where he is in his realm. What you call heaven, sky, the spirit realm where the wind blows. You don't know God. Come on here. Some of you do. But many of you don't. Because you don't read. You don't search. You don't endeavor. You don't dig into the Holy Scriptures enough to understand and engross yourself in them in prayer while you're doing it. And praising and acknowledging God in all that you do while you're doing it. But if we do, we will have peace.
Walk with me.